Hi, it's the end of April. 4 months have gone of this year already. It's scary. And I've got a lot of books to talk to you about that I've read in the second half of the month. I seem to have had a really good reading month this April. I started off with an arc that is already out now. It was published on the 25th of April. And it's called Whaleful by Elizabeth O'Connor. And this is a debut novel. And it's beautiful and emotive, and it's writing about a place that almost feels out of time. It's set in a fictional island off Wales with a small community of fishermen and farmers, and we follow 18-year-old Mairead Manod, and she dreams of going to the mainland. In 1938, two anthropologists come to document the islanders and their lives, and she becomes their translator and is manipulated and exploited by them. And you've got the metaphor of the whale that's beached as well. Super book. You feel so sorry for her. And then I moved on to another arc, and this comes out on the 9th of May. And this one's The Next Girl by Emiko Jean. And it's a slow burn thriller with lots of layers and a reveal that I didn't expect. Two hikers find a girl, Ellie Black, and she was a girl who went missing 2 years previously. The lead detective is Chelsea, who has a backstory because she lost her sister years before. So you have two perspectives. You have Chelsea and you have Ellie's perspective. Ellie is the account of her abduction and what happened during the 2 years. And Chelsea's almost sort of the present day account of trying to find out the truth because she thinks that Ellie is hiding something. Wonderful characters, and I didn't find any misdirection there at all. I thought it was a super read. Then another arc, another one that comes out on the 9th of May, and this was The Fellowship of Puzzlemakers by Samuel Burr. And this is quirky and charming. You've got a dual timeline. You've got Pippa, who's an unmarried puzzle lover. She sets crosswords in the paper. And she sets up this society for puzzle makers. So you have her story from setting up the society up to present time. And then you have Clayton's story. Clayton's story after Pippa's death. Because what happened was that Clayton was found in a hat box by Pippa, and she brought him up. And after her death, she set lots of puzzles for him to find his birth parents. He's got to solve the puzzles to find his birth parents. It's a nice, gentle read, and there's puzzles thrown in for you to solve as well. So that was a good one. Women's Prize for Fiction. The shortlist's now been announced, but I'm still reading the long list. So I read this one. This was on the long list. And it is And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. It covers motherhood, postpartum depression, mental illness, racism. You've got magical realism in here. You've got Indigenous mythology in here. You've got fantasy. I thought it was absolutely super. I'm disappointed it never made the shortlist. Alice is an Indigenous woman who lives in Toronto with her baby. She's married a white professor. And she feels an outsider because she's in this white area. She also feels that she's failing at motherhood. And she's talking. She finds she's hearing voices talking to her. She's even talking to a cockroach. And this is something that she experienced when she was a teenager. She was watching Pocahontas on TV with her little niece, and Pocahontas suddenly started talking to her. It's a descent into madness. is our Alice reliable as a narrator? The final 60 pages, you're switching voices, and it did take a little bit of getting into, but you think, oh yeah, and it's all about heritage and identity, and I thought it was brilliant. Then another one from the Women's Prize. This one has made the shortlist. I think it does. Yes, it has. And it's River East, River West by Aube Lescure. And it's about American expats living in China, I think. You've got grooming, you've got sexual abuse, you've got suicide, you've got loss and coming of age. You've got a dual timeline. In the present day, in 2007, you've got Alva, who's 14. And she is biracial. Her mum's American, her dad's Chinese. And her mum has married Lu Fang. He's her stepdad. And you've got her story because she goes to the local school, but she wants to go to the American school. She doesn't feel Chinese. She thinks she feels more American than Chinese. Then you've got, going back to 1985, you've got Lu Fang, her stepdad. You've got his story. And I thought it was a super story. You see how these two timelines come together. Then I read another arc that comes out on the 23rd of May. And this is by Sarah Crossan, who I've read before. I've read some of her first novels. And this isn't a first novel. And it's got a very interesting, intriguing premise. You've got Dolores, who finds in the garage her husband's AI-powered sex doll, Zoey. And the story's told from Dolores' perspectives, and it talks about her relationships with her mother, her sister. She's a teacher, so her pupils, her stepbrother. There's lots of humour at times. Zoey reminds me of the Alexas that we have in our house. You know, that she talks in exactly the same way that the Alexas talk. And you have the relationship that Dolores has with Zoey, almost wanting a friend, a companion, because I think Zoey is there to show us how empty Dolores' life is. But yeah, this trauma that's affected Dolores her whole life, and you gradually understand what's going on. The timeline jumps around a bit, but it's about a failing marriage and a woman overcoming trauma. Then another one from the Women's Prize for Fiction, and this one didn't make the long list. It didn't make the short list, it was on the long list. The Blue Beautiful World by Karen Lloyd, and it's a sci-fi one, and I struggled with it. It's the third in a trilogy, and I felt that I didn't know what was going on. I felt that the whole time I was reading it, I felt as if I'd missed something because I didn't understand what was going on. For me, there was no world building, and I didn't get anything from the characters. First contact, aliens, different planets. It left me totally confused. And then the last one I read was another arc that comes out on the 28th of May, and it's Goyhood by Reuven Fenton. And this is about two middle-aged, perhaps Jewish brothers on a road trip. It's light, it's humorous. It surprised me because I didn't think it was going to be for me. But it's light, it's humorous, it's enjoyable. It's about identity, about faith, family relationships, and learning about the Jewish heritage, really. David and Marty, they have two very different paths. They find out when they're 11, 12 that they're Jewish. Their mother suddenly announces that her mother was Jewish, so the boys are Jewish. And then they have different paths. Marty, or Meir as he becomes known, goes off to New York and becomes a Talmud student of the Talmud, and marries the daughter of a renowned Talmudist. David, on the other hand, gets into sex and women and get rich quick schemes, most of which fail, but one which makes him a lot of money. And then when their mother dies, she drops a bombshell in a letter that actually they're not Jewish at all. So as regards Marty, his whole life has been a lie. It means his marriage is a lie. So he plans to have a very quick conversion and then confess to his wife what's gone on. But between now and the conversion, he's got a week, so the boys go off on a road trip and there's all sorts of adventures, and I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to do. So I have read a lot of books in April. Add to the first half of the month, and this one I read a lot. My book of the first half of the month was Earth by John Boyne, and even though I've read lots of on the Women's Prize for Fiction and lots of arcs, I am still going. My book of the month is still the John Boyne, because I found it very powerful. A theme of it's a coming of age almost, and I just found the character so. I loved the reflection of Evan as he was going back on his life, and I thought it was, and the idea of Earth as the roots to home, the whole idea of home and roots. I'm reading another memoir at the moment all about roots, which is fascinating, roots and home and Earth, which I'll come on to another time. But yeah, my book of the month is Earth by John Boyne. So that's April finished. So happy reading. Take care.